Hello everyone and welcome back to YouTube channel Duval Mafia here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the little bit of the Jaguars news that's been going on the past couple of days, and I'm also going to touch on my opinions on what's been going on the past couple of days and realistically the past month or so for the Jaguars and my opinions on that. So to get right into this, I'm going to start with 2 days ago, the Jaguars interviewed former Raiders head coach Rich Bisaccia, which he was actually the interim head coach, and he took over the season when Gruden got fired. Of course, everybody probably heard about that, I'm assuming. But Rich did a very good job, in all honesty. He did get he got the Raiders ultimately to the playoffs, which, as the interim head coach, that's about as good as you can do and as good as you can expect, especially considering that they lost 2 first-round picks of 2020 in Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett. They literally both got cut after 1 season, so this roster is also missing a good bit of talent that it could have had. And for Rich to come in and really have that impact and still bring a winning culture, I believe they went 7-5 under him, and that's actually very good because you have to understand he came in mid-season. Yes, he was in the coaching tree, he was in the coaching room and all that. Of course he was, but the thing for me is for him to step up as the head coach and still go above 500 is actually very impressive, in all honesty. Now, do the Raiders have a bad team? No, they have a pretty good team, but they don't have anything special. They're not like the Rams. They're not like the Chiefs. They're not one of these super teams. I mean, if you look at the Raiders, they're pretty average, in all honesty. And for Rich to bring them above their talent level realistically, and to go 7-5 in the last games and ultimately make the playoffs is actually very impressive for me. And it was actually a lot of Raiders players were upset that Rich did not even get a chance to come back because they did hire McDaniels from New England. And a lot of Raiders players were actually tweeting about being upset. I remember there was one from Derek Carr. There was a couple different ones, but I remember Derek Carr was definitely one of them. And they were talking about how Rich actually was this very good coach. He was a player's coach, essentially. He was very close to the players. He touched the players. He made them play as a unit. He made them play better than they really were. That's the type of coach you want. You want a coach that's going to bring out the best in players and make them play above their talent level and just give that little bit of extra effort. And basically, you give them a coach that they want to play for. They want to play hard for. And that's what Rich was for the Raiders when he did take over as interim head coach. And he actually is a good coach, coaching option for the Jaguars. But I will say, this is another one where I would have probably preferred a slightly more offensive, guru type person like Byron Leftwich or Kellen Moore, one of those. But by no means is Rich a bad option, and I would actually be happy if we did sign him as the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars into 2022. And to move on to the next report, the Jaguars actually conducted a second head coaching interview with former Eagles head coach Doug Pederson yesterday. So that happened yesterday, and that's the second interview, meaning that Doug Pederson is realistically a finalist for the job. Once you get 2 interviews, you're more or less a finalist. That means you're doing a good job, and you're on the list of potential hirings for that job, which is a very good thing because I think Doug Pederson's another good coach, another player's coach. He's another good one. He's similar to Rich in that aspect, where he's going to bring the best out of his players, and he's going to have that locker room be a unit. They're going to be a family. That's how they get their locker room. Rich and Doug are very similar in that way, and I do like that the Jaguars are going after head coaches in this type of style, because I don't want a head coach that's not going to have the locker room behind them. I don't want a head coach that the players are not going to like. That's not what I want. I want a head coach that's going to make this locker room ultimately come together as a family and solidify this locker room so we can start building a good culture here, so we can start building a winning team here. And that a head coach with that type of style is very important to that. Because you look around the league, a lot of the best coaches, this is what they are. They're players coaches. They want to help the players. They connect with these players. These players love playing for them, and that's ultimately what makes them special coaches. And the final bit of news that I am going to touch on in this video is the Jacksonville Jaguars interviewed former Vikings GM Rick Spielman for a front office position. What this means essentially is he's not necessarily going for GM, but he will be under the player personnel, or he'll be helping with player personnel. He'll be in the front office helping player development, helping scouting, all this stuff. He'll basically be in there helping, which is a good thing because Rick Spielman actually is a good football mind. I actually liked him when he was the GM of the Minnesota Vikings, and I personally never thought they should have let him go. I would like to bring Rick Spielman in, but The one thing I'll touch on is in all of this news, there was nothing about Trent Baalke, and I don't like that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Shad Khan has to do anything that I say, but I feel like it's pretty obvious what should be done at this point if you want to turn this team around. That's just my opinion. I think it's very clear. I mean, there's players coming out, there's former players coming out, the fans are coming out, the media's talking about it. It's very crazy to me that Shad Khan is not realizing what needs to be done. And now, again, I'm not going to tell him to hire or fire somebody because that's not really fair. It is his team. And I know he is trying to win. Obviously, this is his team. He's not going to try to purposely degrade his team and make it worse. That's not how it's going to work. Of course, he's trying to do the best. But I am curious to know what in the world is going on behind the scenes for the Jacksonville Jaguars front office right now, because they've gotten, honestly, pretty quiet overall after a lot broke with the whole Byron Leftwich, Adrian Wilson situation, which has gone dead silent, by the way. That situation has gone dead silent. We don't really know anything about it at this point, so that I can't really touch on in this video. But it is very odd to me because I feel like the Jaguars had they've had almost 5 weeks. They've had over a month to really make a list of head coaches that they want to target and all this. And all these head coaches have come off the board at this point, and it's kind of stressing me out a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Because the Jaguars have one of the best situations, in my honest opinion. They're in a good city with a great fan base. They have the number 1 overall pick. They just drafted Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall last year. They have their top 5 in the league in available cap space this offseason. It's I don't really fully understand what the problem is and why we can't get a good head coach or a good potential head coach. I don't really understand this. It's kind of scaring me because if it is what it seems to be, if Trent Baalke's the reason that people aren't coming here and Shad Khan's not going to fire him, I'm scared that we're going to land up with a coach that's just not as good. And we're going to land up with a coach that's simply just not what we need. And this is honestly very upsetting and scary for me because I want to see the Jacksonville Jaguars succeed, and they're in such a critical position right now that they have to hire a good head coach. I can't stress it enough. And honestly, Rich Bisaccia, he wouldn't be a bad one. Doug Pederson wouldn't be a bad one. These guys are not bad options, but at this point, I just want one that's in the room, and I also honestly want one that's going to help turn this team around. If we hire Doug Pederson, I'll be happy. If we hire Rich, I'll be happy. If we hire Byron Leftwich, I'll be happy. Pretty much any of these guys, I'll be happy with most of them. I mean, let's be honest. They're most of them are pretty good head coaching candidates. And it is scaring me that the Jaguars are not making a move yet, because for the Senior Bowl and for ultimately just scouting in general, you want to have your head coach in place. You want to have your coaching staff in place. And we are really waiting down to the wire here because the draft is going to be on us in a couple months now. The draft is going to be here sooner than we really think. I mean, this is getting honestly a little bit scary, and I'm really hoping that we figure out who in the world is going to be the Jaguars' next head coach within this next week. By the end of this week, I'm really hoping that somebody is hired, because if they're not, I'm in a very scared position, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are in a very bad position. And overall, Shad Khan, I really just need you to do something right now, dude. Please, I don't care who you hire, just hire somebody that's going to help this team, whether it's Rich, whether it's Byron, whether it's Doug. I mean, just any of them. And then Rick Spielman would be a great addition to the front office staff. I like that move. That's a good interview. That's what you should be doing. And I agree that they should be doing their due diligence and interviewing a bunch of these guys before they make their hiring. But you're waiting till last second here. We've had over a month for all this. I don't know why it took this long. And also, by the way, Kevin O'Connell did not get an interview since he is going to the Super Bowl with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if the Jaguars do still want him, they're going to have to wait 2 weeks to just interview him. So he's pretty much probably out at this point. I just wanted to touch on that quickly. And overall, if I just had to say something, it's just Shad Khan, please hire the next head coach sooner rather than later. The more you wait, the more you're scaring this fan base, and the more negative you're doing to the franchise as a whole. The faster we get our staff in place, the faster we can really start working towards the draft and start working towards nailing this draft and ultimately turning this team around. So with that being said, I am going to wrap up this video. So if you did make it this far, thank you for listening. If you are new, make sure to leave a like. If you are new, make sure to subscribe. And as always, peace out, Duval.